Hi, I'm Greg Schaefer. Welcome to a very special episode of the Virtual CISO Moment. It has been 3 years now since I first started doing these discussion conversation formats, over 180 of them to date, and it's amazing that it's gone 3 years. And for today, for our special guest, we have Bob Davis. He is the Partner and Chief Information Security Officer at Franklin CISO Partners. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Good to see you, and thanks for having me on.
I'm pleased to have you here. We caught up in my office a couple weeks ago. I appreciate that. It's been a while. Would love to have you share your story about how and why you got into this whole InfoSec world and just your entire career progression, and then what led you to be the founder and partner of Franklin CISO Partners.
Yeah. So I know you're you're retired Air Force. So, the military likes to communicate bottom line up front. And so with that, I have to share my greatest achievement. I've been married for 37 years, 4 kids.
That's awesome.
And 5 grandkids. So actually, let me correct that. It's the greatest achievement of which I've been a part of. Get a lot of credit to the wife. So anyway, that's the greatest achievement. On the, kind of on the career side. So went off to college and I was going to be, I was going to be the president of the United States. So politics was the politics was the domain. But I had an encounter with Plato, Socrates, and Machiavelli, and they dissuaded me from my aspirations. So I moved into business.
I think Machiavelli wrote The Prince.
Yes.
Yeah. I believe that. Yeah, I think that was required reading, at least of folks of our vintage, and I still have that copy of it downstairs with that little painting on it, and haven't picked it up since. I'm gonna have to look for it afterwards. Anyway,
the title of the class I took that was called Morality and Politics, and I was like, that's a bit of an oxymoron.
Yeah, and if I think too, I think the class that I took had something to do with morality and leadership, maybe, I don't know, but boy, that just talk about a trigger from something like 35 years. My goodness. All right.
Maybe
well, please continue with your story.
Yeah, no problem. So changed to business, and as part of the business degree, you needed some math requirements, and that also wasn't my greatest study area. And so I took a Fortran class, Intro to Computing, and that was it. Fortran 4. And learned Pascal and some others, but so did that, and it just clicked. Well, at the same time, my dad, who is a pathologist and a avid hobbyist, bought a Tandy TRS-80.
Trash 80. Yes.
Yeah, Trash 80. 2 floppy drives, right? 2 5 1/4, one for the program, one for the data. And we he gave us requirements, and collectively we wrote a program to do inventory of blood for his blood bank. So that was my brother did most of it. His propeller spins a lot faster than mine does on the top of his head. So.
Now, I'm sure that you did a proper peer code review for vulnerabilities before releasing that on the.
We didn't know how to spell security on those. So, fast forward, really kind of the first part of, half of my career or so was application development in a number of different companies, entrepreneurial, activities, started a consulting company, closed a consulting company, worked for some clients, and then, kind of halfway, through the career, I said, well, let me see what this corporate stuff is all about. So I joined a company in Atlanta as the chief application architect. I'd been building networks and writing code and doing consulting, and so it just kind of culminated in the chief application architect for this company, but quickly moved into running infrastructure for a financial services company. And it didn't take long before that, security became a thing. And so that's probably early 2000s, I became also the information security officer. And had done that kind of jointly for the next 14, 15 years. And, grew up from, a small, not a startup, but a funded financial services company to, at the end of the day, we were a couple of $1 billion and 6,000 people. So, after, about 2014, I take a break, and I ended up moving to Nashville, to Franklin, Tennessee, and moving into healthcare. And again, I started kind of in the combo infrastructure and security role, but one of the things I discovered in small to mid-sized healthcare services firms was they were solving problems that had been solved in financial services 10, 15 years prior, quite frankly. And so we decided as a team, I would just focus on security. So I've been doing that since, 2014. So basically healthcare CISO. Through that process, we actually got acquired, by one company, then another. Ultimately, we were owned, and I served as a deputy CISO at Cigna for a couple of years. I left there for another smaller company, did that for another couple of years, 2.5 years. And this summer I decided to take a break. And, out of that break, I have formed Franklin CISO Partners, which is, intended to support and serve the small to medium-sized healthcare services businesses.
Yeah, and it's certainly there's a lot of need for it, because there's a lot of small and mid-sized businesses out there in all verticals, but particularly healthcare. I mean, with HIPAA, high trust, and all of those rules and regulations that are out there, I think that some even still get lost. Like I would imagine, like a doctor's office, for example, they look at HIPAA as being, well, the extent of it are these forms that the patients have to sign every year, and we got to put them in a locked filing cabinet or something like that. But they don't really understand the extent of the what they need for a security program. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think the kind of the thing that I may be jumping ahead from where we want to go here, but I think the thing that I find is important is to keep small businesses thinking about security as a program, not as a one-off point solution. And so it's, privacy is about, right, how do we share data, but security is how do you make sure we keep those secrets secret, right? Anyway, I think you're exactly right, Greg.
Well, and that is also another common misconception, and that you've probably faced, I faced, where a client or a business might say, well, we want you to be privacy officer as well as security officer. And it's like, well, they're two different disciplines. And it's like, well, I thought that it was all about information. And then you have to have that conversation about what the differences are. And that can be difficult sometimes, because people, I don't know, maybe they have preconceptions of these definitions.
Again, agree. And I always, as a CISO, again, in a variety of sizes of businesses, it's most effective when you have the privacy attorney or, someone with that skill set and discipline to understand the laws, regulations, which are myriad, and, and to kind of take that, because it is a handoff. I would, you almost always have multiple privacy events, people inappropriately sharing things at which they have authority and access to. They have the right to see and have it, but they share it inappropriately. They send it to the wrong provider, whatever the case might be. And, those seem to happen, daily, weekly. We hope we don't have daily, weekly security events. So I think the focus is definitely right. It can be distracting, quite frankly. When security, we need, again, be about the program, about securing the infrastructure, educating people about, things they should and shouldn't do from a security perspective.
So we've kind of blended into the small and mid-sized business risk arena. But if you had to look at all threats that are out there from an information security perspective to small and mid-sized businesses. And since you're specifically healthcare, let's focus on SMBs for healthcare. In your opinion right now, what's like one or a couple of the most significant threats that they do face outside of the fact of understanding that information security needs to be an established program?
So you and I have talked about kind of the Nashville Franklin CISO community. It's so great. It's a lot of people sharing. So I'll give credit to learning from a ton of other really, really smart CISOs, which, I get to learn from. And I would say, so personally, and kind of confirmed by a lot of them, there are three things that we see a lot. So number one, unknowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't secure what you don't know about, and just I'll go through the three, unknowns, people, and third parties. Those are kind of the top three things, really, in that order. So with the unknowns, I mean, this is, as simple as just understanding where all your devices are, where all your data is, understand what applications you're running. Is somebody subscribed to, yet another SaaS application, and they're sharing their data on their Google Drive, things like that. So really, understand, because regardless of, my comment earlier about, point solutions, if we know about it, we can secure it. And we can at least do a good job.
And that's such a truism in information security. It's so simple, but sometimes it seems to be difficult for small and mid-sized businesses to understand that that there's a reason why folks like you or folks like me or even auditors, they'll ask, it's like for something basic, like show me your information inventory, your information asset inventory. And we're not asking it for the sake of like checking a box. It's like, because as you said, you can't secure what you don't know about. And so instead of jumping ahead to buying like tools or this or that, you need to start with the basic. I mean, it truly is building it from the ground up in that sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. All kinds of antivirus solutions, all kinds of firewalls, but if you're not running any of those things, you basically, the windows and the doors are open to the business for anybody to come in. Right. There are good and bad tools, and and tools can be configured properly, right? That's kind of the next level, but you got to know about it. You got to be running your tools, and, working through, making sure that you're configuring those tools properly. But that's number one. So, the unknowns. So then we talk about people, right? A lot of people say, people, I'm the insider risk. This isn't just, bad people doing bad things. You worry about this. It's really, really good people doing stupid things, or I'll rephrase that: good people doing uneducated and ill-advised things.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's the challenge that we have, is to make sure that our people understand what they should and shouldn't do and why. And I think that's really important, is to focus on, why is it that I need, MFA, or why is it that I do, or that I perform this step? When they get the why and the context and the consequences, potential consequences of not doing those things, it really makes them part of, part of the solution, not part of the problem.
You made me think of something that I believe is applicable, that I've never applied to information security before from my past, but I think I might bring it in as part of the story. It's like they're not necessarily stupid, but they're ignorant, or they haven't been trained completely. In one of my many former lives, it seems like I was a small mini farm owner, 7.5 acres, and horses and all that. And I self-promotion, even wrote a book on it from the loft. You can get it on Amazon. So I was a city boy, moved down to the South, and got married, and ended up being on this mini farm. And so I'm trying to learn how to do all this stuff. Think like Green Acres, type deal in a way. And so it came time for like doing a burn pile. And I got this big stuff I got to burn. And everybody's like saying, you want to make sure you use diesel or kerosene or something like that. And I'm like, well, I had gasoline, for the mowers and all that. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, come on. I mean, how bad can it be? Well,
Yeah, it can be pretty. Yeah. Oh
I
my
had a
gosh.
straw hat on and it was burned like partially off my head. I think I lost some
Oh my
eyebrows and all
goodness.
that. But it was like, I mean, I wasn't necessarily stupid. I was ignorant, and I didn't listen to
Right.
people who were authoritative and understood in that area. And the same thing with information security. It's like we're trying to tell you something, uh, not to check a box, but because we're trying to make your life better and not burn your eyebrows.
Yeah. Often, I think this is certainly changing. I mean, no one could ignore the headlines, and the impact of ransomware and all of this. So, I mean, it's out there, but you look at it in the medical community, you look at things like MFA, as friction, right? I need to serve my patients. You're preventing me or slowing the process. And we know that, there are all kind of economic challenges. They've got to be efficient, with service delivery across all the ecosystems. And so, I mean, I get it. But, but let's address this problem like the businesses address any other operational component. What do? They'll do a Six Sigma DMAIC, exercise, right? And they'll define and measure, analyze, improve, and control. Well, guess what? Build security into that. And it doesn't have to be friction. It can be an enabler. And quite frankly, it's kind of where my passion lies, and that is creating resiliency and toughness into a business. Just using cyber and infosec as kind of that enabling capability.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that's the way I think about it.
And then what about third parties? I think you listed that as
Yeah. So third parties. This is one where when kind of goes back to inventory, or unknowns. You need to know, right, who has your data, who you're sharing it with. Like I said, are your end users using their Google Drive, or have you allowed them to send their data to their Gmail, Yahoo account or whatever? You need to know where where it is. But from a service, the healthcare ecosystem, I think one of the reasons why we're behind is because it's highly fragmented, very heterogeneous, and because there's a lot of innovation occurring, and you've got a lot of startups and a lot of investment, and not all service providers are created equal, and so and we're looking for the next right answer, or the next better answer for how do we do a copay card validation, or or claims processing. So you got to know who you're sharing your data with, and then but don't eat the elephant all at once.
Right.
And so that's my analogy. Sometimes I think it's a herd of elephants, but right, put them on a list, do the risk rating. This doesn't have to be super sophisticated. They're important. They're less important. I mean, and then just start, right? And I tell, just start with understanding how you're sharing it, making sure you have, whether it's legal agreements, or encryption, or whatever the case might be. But then it's also, I want them to prioritize, but also be opportunistic. Meaning, don't, you got a big complex problem to solve. Great, work on it. It's going to take you a while. But in the meantime, do the easy stuff, fill in the gaps, because ultimately, reduction of any risk is moving in the right direction.
Yeah, this idea of like people, I think you talk about the eating, the biting, the eating of the elephant. Voltaire, I think, was the one who said, "Perfect is the enemy of the good." It's like, just start somewhere. You're never going to get to perfection. And I don't know why people think that they need to. It's like they need to have this perfect risk register. They need to have identified all risks. It's like, you're never going to get there.
Never.
Just start and wash, rinse, and repeat. And if you have a risk that's exploited, that somehow or another you missed and wasn't on your risk register, so long as you were doing due diligence trying to find risks, I mean, you're going to be all right, unless it was
Yeah.
something really obvious like MFA. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know the statistic, I have to look it up, but, I think so many of the, breaches and incidents are caused by vulnerabilities that are what, 5-10 years old?
Yeah, very
I mean,
solvable, like the 80-20
very
rule,
solvable.
or just look at the ones that are. I mean, you can choose your saying, like low hanging fruit. I mean, they got so many out there because it's
Exactly.
true, right? But it can all be very stressful, can't it?
It can, and that's so that's what I think we do as CISOs, whether that's permanent, interim, or virtual, is we help them see the bigger picture, and help them prioritize their activities, help them prioritize their financial spend, where they're going to see the greatest risk reducing activities, but look at it as a program, right? And to your point, it's a program, it's a process, and you're never done. But
yeah, I think wrapping it up like that is a good way to bring it back home, is that it is a program. It is not something that you can just slap something on and say, okay, we've done security now for the quarter, or we've done security for this, or we have this solution in place, so then we're fine. We've got an antivirus. I mean, Bob, how many times have you heard back in the day, well, we're secure because we got a firewall? I mean, I don't know if people still say that now, but I mean, that was pretty pervasive, like,
you got
10, 15 years ago.
a firewall with any rules,
Well, now there's a good point too, because somebody I think on this podcast was like mentioning that just because you have a firewall from an MSP or an MSSP doesn't mean that it's effective, because this MSSP did not have a default deny at the bottom. And when questioned, the MSSP said, well, you didn't say that you wanted that. It's like, but we're paying you to be our SME, or subject matter expert. I don't know about you. That stresses me out. Stresses me out when I'm dealing with MSSPs like that, or if I'm dealing with clients that are resistant to change and understanding, so that they don't like use gasoline on a burn pit. People got to get away. They got to get away from those stresses of cyber and information security. They need to understand that we have to decompress in a positive way, not a negative way. What's one of the things, Bob, that you do to decompress?
My lifelong passion is golf. So that's I get out there. Some people say it's a stress creating event, but I've kind of now my favorite thing to do is get out on the course with a bunch of buddies and yuck it up and just make fun of ourselves because we suck. And and again, it's a lot like information security. You're never done. You never have the perfect swing. The other thing I love to do is long cooks, aka barbecue. So I love the planning process. Hey, what are the injections? What's the seasoning? When do I need to be done? How long does it need to rest? What temps am I going to get to? What am I going to? What kind of wood am I going to smoke it with? That just I love that. And sometimes the longer the better. 8, 10, 16-hour cooks.
I need to ask you if you ever had conversations with someone else in their community, Frank Platt, with regards to barbecuing.
I have not, but now that you say, I'll have to look him up.
Well, no, I didn't know if you knew him or not, but
No.
he unfortunately died suddenly last year.
Oh,
but he was a barbecue extraordinaire in Nashville, and a judge in Memphis. He well known, and so he was one of my early guests on the podcast, and I asked him, here's the softball question, Frank. What do you do to decompress? He said, "Oh, come on, Greg, barbecue." So it's like,
It is.
And so you're the second one who mentioned that, and I thought maybe you might have been in conversations or competitions together, but
No, this is all this is all for family and friends, and there's at the end of the day, it brings me no greater joy when someone actually likes what I've cooked. So it's very satisfying.
So future plans, does it involve like maybe taking a barbecue grill out on the golf course and combining
I don't know. I don't know. That would I would be very popular. I guarantee.
Yeah, and bring a keg along with it, and there you go. You can make a lot of money. What you got planned?
So, we're, I think, again, I've mentioned this, we're early stages with Franklin CISO Partners, building out service offerings. But just to kind of, the motivation, the passion is just trying to bring it home for businesses and help them, small to medium businesses, and help them become resilient and tough. And that, and that's really kind of the consolidation of, my career, which was, infrastructure. We think about resiliency, business continuity, disaster recovery, application architectures and code written, can make us flexible and nimble as a business, and you tie that in with the security component where, we're protecting our data, we're keeping our secrets, we're making sure that people can do their job effectively. And so just, applying that, bringing that to, small, medium sized businesses is kind of the passion. So that's what we're focused on.
So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
At the moment, we're still working on the website. So at the moment, it's bob.davis@franklincisopartners.com.
That's real easy to remember. bob.davis@franklincisopartners.com. See, look at that. I remembered it, and I didn't even have to write it down.
That's right.
So well, I got your LinkedIn over here too, but I just kind of was guessing from it too. So
awesome.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for joining us on the 3-year anniversary of this little experimental podcast. So I don't know how much longer it'll go, but I'm having a blast talking with folks like you, and appreciate so much you sharing your wit and wisdom with the audience today.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
And everybody, stay secure.